Thank you. Good to have you back, choir. Okay. Hello, Virginia Ronnie, visiting us from out of town. You're welcome. How are you, John? Good to see you. You're welcome. How is everybody this morning? Hey, Rusty, do you know where Mason is? Where? Well, you remind him last year at the picnic, he tried for 3 hours to hula hoop, and he couldn't do it. And he said this year he'd come back and he'd be able to. So there's a reason why he's not here this morning. You tell him we're watching him. Anyway, this is the second part of a two-part series called Faith plus Patience equals Peace of Mind. Faith and patience are spiritual attributes that we have within us. They're provided by Spirit in an unlimited way, and they're specifically designed to assist us in moving through the difficult situations in life, to assist us in getting up over the setbacks and the fall downs that we experience as a normal part of life, and to keep us more in a state of well-being with a greater peace of mind. Faith is an assurance. It is just a calm knowing that things will work out. Every single addict or every single alcoholic that goes into recovery has to have some sense of faith in themselves that they'll be able to break the addiction and move beyond it, or they would never even begin. We all have faith within us. It's just at times that we turn our thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and perceptions to that which is like anti-faith, which is anxiety and fear and a lot of worry that is really kind of needless. So faith plus patience, which we're going to talk about today, provides for us a higher state of well-being and peace of mind. Patience is a pause. Patience is allowing ourselves to just kind of settle down with the way things are, especially those things that we can do nothing about. If it is what it is, we can only do what we can do, and so we just have patience and trust in the universe to allow things to unfold and progress forward at its own timing. And I think that's specifically important to remember that everything has a divine sense of timing, a divine order to it. The universe has a divine timing to it. It takes so long for an acorn to grow into an oak tree. That timing has to be experienced and understood by us to just see the magnificent wonders in nature that are all unfolding according to their own time. Now, that's also true with our problems and challenges. They have a beginning, and then there's time that they directly affect us, and they have an end. And a lot of times we want to leap from the beginning to the end and not go through that learning process or not having to experience all the disturbing situations, but that is necessary. Those are steps taken so that when we get to the end of any problem or challenge, we've actually learned something by the experience itself. We've grown, we've become stronger. It's just having the patience to wait and to allow it to unfold at its own pace without running around in circles and trying to come up with a solution immediately. I read a story written by a kindergarten teacher this year, and she was writing on patience. It was one day after school, one of her kindergarten students was having a hard time getting his boots on, so she went over to help him. And she had a very difficult time getting them on herself. She was pushing and she was pulling and she was turning the boot. And after about 10 minutes of just a very difficult struggle, she finally got them on. The little boy said, "You put them on the wrong feet." So the teacher struggled, and it was just as difficult to get the boots off as it was to get them on. For another 10 minutes, finally got the boots off, put them on the right feet, struggled to get them back on. When she did, the little boy said, "These aren't my boots." So the teacher took the boots off, another 10-minute struggle. The little boy says, "I lost my boots. These are my brother's. My mother made me wear them." This is a true story, and for those of you who teach, you can understand the great amount of patience that's needed. So, she struggles to get the boots back on, and at last everything seems right. She says, "There, now where are your mittens?" He said, "I stuffed them in the toes of my boots." It's funny, isn't it? We as human beings, the most advanced species on the planet and perhaps even the universe, it's just funny to watch ourselves, how we react. The only reason why we're here, each and every single one of us, the only reason why we're here is to deepen our relationship with life. That is it. The deeper we go into life, the greater of a spiritual awareness we develop, and the easier life becomes for us, the greater we can benefit other people. We're here to deepen our relationship with life. Yet we spend so much time resisting life or turning on life like it's the enemy or groaning and moaning about life, not wanting to do many of the things life presents us, that a lot of times our life becomes more trying not to live than it is to live. It's trying to separate us from the relationship rather than to deepen our relationship with life. It calls for patience, to know that there is a timing, a divine order that's in play, that life has a timing of its own, it has a process, that we are here to experience the richness and the diversity of life and not to rush through it or demand that things happen our way. On the front of the bulletin, I put a picture of the Tibetan monks, and I did that for a specific purpose. 2 weeks ago, this Tuesday, they came here, and they laid out this little platform on the floor, and they began to build a sand mandala. They had all sorts of bowls of different colored fine sand around them. And as you can see in the picture, they have a little tool that they put the colored sand in they want to use, and then they just tap it out. And at the beginning ceremony of this, on Tuesday morning, the monks were gathered around this design that they were going to build. And as they got ready, one little grain of sand rolled out onto the platform. One out of millions to come. One little grain of sand. The monks worked for 5 days around that platform, taking the color of sand they want and gently tapping it out. To me, that was the greatest display of patience that I've ever seen. If it was me, I'd throw all the sand in at once and try to make a picture with my hands and be done with it in 5 minutes. But they took 5 days. The meaning of the mandala was the impermanence of life. That things don't stay the way they are. Every single thing changes, and the greatest impediment to our peace of mind is trying to hold on to that which has changed and cannot be unchanged. It's things that have happened in the past, a security that we might experience in the present moment. Here it is, the 11th anniversary of 9/11. That day, hundreds of people died, both victims from the crash and the fire workers and the police workers and the other people, the civil servants that came forward to try to save lives and to correct the situation that had occurred. That was very unfortunate. That changed the way we live forever. Not only in traveling and security measures, but just in the easiness of being in America that had not been attacked like that before. Just in the relationships we have with the enemy, so-called enemy that did that to us, it changed our lives forever. The peace of mind that we had probably diminished after that, and it might have built back up to the same level you had before, it might not, but it changed us. There's nothing we can do to unchange that, but it is patience within us that allows us to move through this, and however long it takes, know that we are going to be able to return to a state of mind that is very peaceful and has a great sense of well-being. That is just within us. That's with absolutely everything in the universe. Last week we used the illustration of taking a trip. That we're here, we want to take a road trip to Southern California. And we had to have faith, first of all, that we can make the trip before we'd even begin. If we didn't think we could make it, we wouldn't start. So today we're going to talk about patience on that same trip. You get up, you go out, you get in the car, you take off. 6 hours down the way, you run into a traffic jam, there's road construction. Traffic slows down to a snail's pace. There's nothing you can do about it, and it goes on for 2 hours, and then 3 hours, and then 4 hours, just creeping along. Your entire plans, your schedule, are all thrown out the window. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? There's several different options. You can pound the steering wheel, you can scream out the window, you can rant and rave, you can cry, you can curse God, you can curse life, or you can enjoy the very slow ride and take advantage of the scenery. It doesn't make any difference. The same thing is going to happen. So the point is, by applying patience in our lives to many, many things, no matter what happens, we can still find a benefit in this new parallel universe, so to speak. And I'll explain that in a minute. Parallel universe is you get in the car, you're going to Southern California. One universe is your universe, your universal reality, is that you make that trip without any problems at all. No obstacles. It's a nice, clean trip. That's one universe, one reality for you. A parallel reality is what just took place. You got caught in traffic, you're driving very slow, nothing you can do about it. A whole different experience. So finally you get out of this little traffic jam, you're moving down the road, you get a flat tire. So you pull over to the side of the road, you go to the trunk, and the spare is flat as well. What are you going to do? There are parallel realities that you can engage in at that time. You can go out in the ditch, lay down, kick your feet, and scream. Do whatever you want. Or you can say, okay, how do I correct this problem? And you got the wisdom within you to do that, even though you don't know exactly how it's going to go. Well, I need to get this flat tire fixed. I'll call out for help. You get out of the car, somebody comes by, they stop, they give you a ride to a tow service. You have them tow the car in, take it to a tire shop, fix both the tires, and you're on your way. Now the point is, when that flat tire occurred, you shifted into a whole different reality that was going to unfold. And you experienced a goodness in the world that you wouldn't have experienced otherwise. The nice person that stopped and picked you up and helped you out. The tow truck driver that went back with you, a very kind person. The person that fixed your tire. You got 2 new tires out of the deal. That whole experience was full of blessings, it was full of goodness, but we miss that if we're impatient and we start accusing life of treating us in an unfair way. Patience is extremely important. When Jesus began his ministry, he was met with all sorts of problems and challenges. Some he didn't know how to handle. He had questions he didn't have answers to. All sorts of things were going on. So it says in the Bible several times, he went off by himself into the wilderness, or he went off by himself onto the mountaintop, and he just sat there patiently and waited for the answers to his problems to come, to the way around his challenges to come, to know what he was going to say next. He patiently waited, and the way was shown to him. Exactly the same thing with Buddha. He gets on the spiritual path. He's got all these questions about life. Why is it the way it is? Why is there suffering? Why are people angry? Why are people fighting? He couldn't discover the answers for that. So it says that he went, he sat underneath a tree, and he patiently waited. And the answers were given to him. It was the same thing with Gandhi. And Gandhi went up against the British colony for their control of India. And they far overpowered him. And he was rebuked many, many times, but he persisted and he persisted. And he would back away, and with patience, he'd wait to see what the way was. Eventually, it was shown to him. He won that particular skirmish or that battle without ever picking up a weapon or without any sort of physical attack. It is incredible. But what this tells us is that we need a time to do that as well. When you're faced with a challenge that you think is just way too big for you to get around, or a problem that seems to be unsolvable and you don't know how to deal with it, or a setback or an upset that takes place and you feel like you are helpless, when that happens, the best thing to do is nothing. Instead of running around in a circle, scrambling for some sort of an answer or a solution, or trying to defeat what it is, rather than stand back and solve what it is, when that happens, we just patiently wait, and we do nothing. Now, the next time that happens to you, I want you to think about this story. It's the Chinese bamboo. Incredible display of patience in nature. There's a particular kind of bamboo in China. The farmers plant it deep in the ground. They water the ground. They nurture the ground. 3 months later, there's absolutely no evidence that anything's been planted. They continue to water the ground and nurture the ground. 1 year later, no evidence anything's been planted. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later, there's no evidence that anything's been planted. The ground is still bare. Finally, 5 years later, the tiny bamboo sprout works its way up through the ground. Aha, at last. In 3 days, it grows 10 feet in the air. In 3 months, it grows 80 feet in the air. So, the wisdom of nature within that bamboo plant tells it that it needs a very wide and sturdy root system because of the rapid growth that's going to take place once it pushes through the ground. And the first 5 years is spent developing that foundation so that it can maintain an 80-foot stalk. It is the same thing with us when we face problems and challenges. When we're in the midst of something and it seems like nothing's happening, the problem isn't getting solved and the challenge isn't being overcome, that doesn't mean that nothing's happening. Because within us, the wisdom is being built up to solve the problem. The strength is being built up to persevere over the problem. Patience is being to be at peace with it while it's taking place. All of those spiritual attributes are within us, and they're putting together a foundation that we can stand on once we've gone by this challenge to avoid things like that in the future. It's just timing. It's finding the timing in life. It's like going out on the dance floor and dancing to a different beat. That is what it's like when we resist life, when we especially attack the timing of life. We try to hurry things up, or we try to slow things down, or we try to do things our way rather than realizing I can't push the river and I can't back it up. All I can do is go with the flow. So as we move into meditation this morning, I just want you to think a little bit about patience in your life. Does it wear thin from time to time? Do certain people help you exercise it? Can you draw on it more than you have? Just think about those things. We'll now move into meditation.